My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing Matters, and today I have with me Sherrie Morgan. So she is originally from the UK, but now calls Australia home and has so for the last 20 years. She recently became a mum and chose to embark on this journey alone as a solo mum by going through IVF using a donor sperm. She's also a small business owner, a digital artist, and can cooperate wellness business with another wellness warrior. I love this. She lives a low tox lifestyle as much as possible, and she makes many homemade products and enjoys creating wholesome food from locally organic sourced farms. So a big welcome to the show, Sherrie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. What a great intro.
Well, it's nice to hear about yourself. The last few guests I've had have said the same thing. And I'm like that too. When people introduce me, I'm like, oh, that's me.
It's so when you say it, like I do it, I live it and I breathe it. But when you actually hear somebody else say it, it's like, oh yeah, that's all of me. So exciting.
Exactly. And it's so nice. It's so nice being seen, right? Because that's
Yeah.
that's why you're here, so that we can share your story. And what a powerful one. So I guess share a little bit. I feel like the audience would love to know why you actually chose to become a single mum, and I guess where that journey actually came about too.
Yeah, okay. I mean, look, it's it was such a long journey in the sense that for many, many years I didn't want to become a mum. Like I didn't want a family. I chose the career. I was, just living this lavish lifestyle basically, earning lots of money, spending lots of money. A family wasn't for me. And it wasn't that I didn't like kids. Absolutely love kids. Like don't get me wrong, love kids. All my cousins, nephews, nieces, everything, love them to bits. But I just didn't think it was for me. And it wasn't until I'm going to say pre-COVID, so maybe like 2019, 2020, I started doing some really deep healing work. Started working with my inner child, started working with a lot of, I'm going to say, daddy issues, which I thought I dealt with a long time ago. And clearly I hadn't, because I think the thing that came out of it the most was that I feared being a single mum, right? I feared that more than anything because that's how I was brought up. My mum was a single mum. My dad was kind of a bit MIA. And I feared that the most. I just didn't want an absent father or an absent parent in my life. At the time, I was in a same-sex relationship as well, so I just never wanted that for myself. And deep down, I think that is what was holding me back the most. And then, so around about that time, I was in a relationship with someone who I said, look, I actually do want a family. It kind of I think I've been thinking about it for a while, but then I actually spent a long time in the car. It's going to sound ridiculous. I was driving out to Mildura for work, and it's like a 6-hour drive or something, right? I cried all the way there. I cried all the way back because I was like, oh my God, yes, I think I do want to be a mum. Do I want to be a mum? Oh, I don't want to be a mum. Oh my God. And I literally just cried there and back. And I think going through that big process made me realize that yes, that is what it was too big a risk not to do it, right? To not have a family. So I then told my partner at the time that I wanted to have a family. Unfortunately, she didn't get on that same page. So we spent a couple of years kind of going back and forth, back and forth. And then I don't know, I just came to the conclusion that I needed to go it alone. I couldn't wait anymore. I'm 40. I just turned 40 in January, right? So I couldn't wait anymore. I would need to get a donor. I'd need to go through IVS. So there was a big process ahead of me, like a big journey. A lot of my friends that had had gone through an IVF journey had been a massive one. Like, I'm talking years and years. So there was me thinking,
Yeah.
okay, I could be in this like for the long haul, right? So yeah, I just took that leap, and I actually said it and I did it while I was still in that previous relationship, which then I think solidified us breaking up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, because we just weren't on the same path anymore. And I mean, in the midst of all of that, I then started a low tox lifestyle. Op shopping was my thing. I started growing things. I started like I just became a very different person, the person that I'm meant to be. um
Yeah.
so yeah, so I guess that's kind of where it took me. It took me to that kind of it took me through a lot of healing, and then to go, actually, this is what I want. It's funny when you go through IVF process. Lots of your viewers, I'm sure, would know this if they're going through it or have been through it. You have to see a counselor, and it was a bit of a pivotal moment for me, because that's where I really realized that uh the single mum thing was like, it was the thing I feared the most, but it was the thing that I needed the most. I needed to accept it myself, but do it as a warrior, right? Do it as I'm proud to do this. I'm going in this on my own. I'm making the decisions. No one else is going to be absent. They don't need to be, because this is the path that I'm choosing. And it was like, it was a bit of a light bulb moment, to be honest. I came off it and I spoke to a friend. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is my path. I'm choosing it. But I think this is the path that is meant for me. It's chosen me. So yeah, the thing I
Yeah.
feared the most was the thing I needed the most. So yeah, that's basically it.
There's so much in that journey I want to highlight. Well, first of all,
Mm,
having the courage to just follow your dreams anyway, even though your partner at the time wasn't on board with that. But it was that, once you get that soul urge, you can't keep squishing it down because you have to honor it. Otherwise, it just keeps getting louder and louder and louder. And I could almost watch your journey as you were describing it and like, no, we need, like, I really want this family. And that full circle healing that you have of it's almost like because you became a single mom from a warrior choice, you broke the cycle in your own family, right? Because it
totally.
wasn't, I don't know. Yeah, I was like, I don't know your full story, but I feel like it wasn't your mum's choice to be a single mum. Whereas you're
No.
like, actually, no, I'm going to step into that fear, step through that fear, be courageous, and actually, like you said, take it from a warrior point of view and just allow it to happen. And then you end up with this beautiful little boy now who is just,
Yes.
and now you're using that to help inspire and share your stories and your journey with others who might be a single mum by choice, not by choice, because a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to be a mum, whether you have a partner or not.
Hey, I was there. I will absolutely hold my hands up, and I had no idea how difficult mums had it until becoming a mum myself. And yeah, you're right. It having Harrison he has propelled me. I think even pre having him, like, propelled me to be better, to do more, to do better, to be a courageous person, because I want him to learn. I want him to know that he can follow his dreams, he can do what he wants, and that nothing needs to stand in his way. So I want to be that kind of pioneer for the path, for him. But yeah, he's definitely kind of spurred me on to this, a brand new lifestyle, really, which is awesome. It's so awesome. But I had no idea. I literally had no idea. There's all this wonderful stuff. But I tell you what, it's hard. It is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard,
Or
man.
I only have one, so and he's older, but I still
Yep.
remember the sleep deprivation. And if any mums are listening, they'll fully understand this. Trying to function on like maybe 3 hours of broken sleep, like it's so difficult. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It's just that's the journey you're going through, and the midnight feeds and the amount of shopping I would do online to stay awake while I was trying to feed. I don't know if you're guilty of that too. I'm like, what? When did I order this? Oh, apparently I ordered pajamas at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and and just to stay awake, right? And but like you said, it's like you can never prepare for it. And I think even parents who I've worked with who even have 2 children or 3 children, they're like, you still can't prepare for it because each child is unique and each child comes with their
Yeah.
own journey. Yeah. And I love that
Totally.
you're being that role model to show Harrison how to challenge and follow your dreams too.
Yeah, and I think it's easier said than done, right? Isn't it? I think, to do all these things, it can be so easy to say it, but it's another thing kind of following it up. But I've got to admit that for me going onto this journey, I really felt that there was a lot of women in particular that like said, yeah, parenting's hard, but never really got into the nitty-gritty of like the things that are hard, like saying it's hard, but then actually going, okay, these are the reasons why it's hard. This is what you're going to come up against. But it is normal. It's normal to feel manic and crazy at 3 a.m. when you've had no sleep. It's normal to feel mum rage. It is normal to feel like you are a walking zombie. These are all part of like that normal cycle. But I think for me, like a lot of mums in my life, like a lot of my friends, had really just said, "Oh, it's hard," but then kind of sugarcoated it with all the beautiful stuff. And then you only ever see all the beautiful stuff. And actually, that's a part of my little journey now is sharing more about my experiences because I think more women need to know. They need to be heard, be seen, but also understand that they're not weird and that they can talk about it. I think we need to normalize all these things. There's just so many things that I think that we need to normalize as women. We are doing the most natural thing on the planet, which is having a baby. But yet there's so many things that we just kind of skip over, or there's so
Mm.
much like dud advice, or you only see like, the Instagram mums, the polished look and I'm like, I don't look like that. I don't like that ever. There's just no way. I don't have a team of stylists to get me done. Like, I don't look
Yeah.
like that. It's rubbish.
Yeah. And it's funny. I'm going to share our little backstory, Sherry, of how we met.
Yeah.
So I connect with random strangers every day, and then I was actually doing a project with a colleague, and we were interviewing mums to see what the hardest thing was. And Sherry was just so open to share how like the difficulties and the highlights and everything. And then she's like, "Hey, I've got a YouTube channel, which we'll plug at the end of the show." But she's like, "I've got this YouTube channel because I want mums to see both sides of being a mum. That you have these beautiful moments, but you also have these incredibly hard moments, which, especially being on your own, can be really hard to work through. And it doesn't even matter if you have a partner. Sometimes if they're working long hours and you're still at home, you go crazy. And I remember watching the clock, waiting till my husband would get home just so I could possibly have a shower, or and that was from having a partner perspective. But you don't do that. You just have to go, I have 5 minutes to get in the shower, get everything done, get back out. It's just the other extreme.
It is extreme. It absolutely is. And I think you're right though. I think there are so many aspects of it, but I do think you're even though yes, I've chosen to do this on my own, I don't have that kind of buffer. I do know a lot of mums, a lot of friends of mine that they've got husbands that are FIFO, right? So they're literally like single mums for 3 weeks out of a month. So they are literally doing it alone. It's just the life that they've got. But at least then when they've got the hubby back for a week, they kind of get that little bit of a reprieve. But I think there's everyone's kind of going through all their own little journeys. And I do honestly think that all mums find it tough. Every day, actually. I think there's a point in every single day that every mum will be like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, what have I done? What did I do? Like, and
Yep.
it might just be a split second. It could be an hour. It could be a second. Like, I just genuinely think that we need to be a bit more open and honest about it because there is just this like, I don't know, like this undercurrent of we all. It's like a hidden secret. All mums know what you're going through, but nobody wants to talk about it. It's like,
Yep.
yeah, we all
Yep.
know what you're feeling. We all know what you're going through.
Yeah.
Shh.
Exactly. And I think a lot of mums who I've worked with, who I've spoken to, a lot of the time, I'll be like, are you okay? And they're like, yeah, 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 I'm fine. I'm like, no, I know you're not. Like, I've been working with
Mm,
your child for so long, or whatever it might
yeah.
be. And then I'll be like, are you okay? And they're like, no, I'm actually like exhausted. And it's like, okay, well, what can you do to step out of that? And I think that's really powerful too, Sherrie, how you like, no one's talking about it, because people do need to talk about it, and people do need to see both sides and normalize that it's okay to not be okay. Like, it's okay to say,
100%.
I am exhausted, and I don't know about you, but I still remember when I was so sleep deprived, and someone would say, how are you? And I said, I'm really tired. And they go, oh yeah,
Yes.
me too. I went to bed
Oh.
late. They don't have children, right? I went to bed late, and I'm like, oh yeah, how many hours of sleep did you get? They go 6 hours. I said, was that in a row? Because that's amazing.
You're bringing out my mum rage here now, because I get this all the time. I actually look, I'm in a lovely relationship at the moment, and he's actually overseas, but we talk obviously every day with video, and he will often say like, oh, he's tired, and I'm like, are you? You're exhausted, are you? You're exhausted. You had 12 hours sleep. You're not exhausted. You have
Mhm.
no idea what exhausted
Yeah,
is, because honestly, when you're not in that, you just like. I mean, I'm grateful sometimes when I have a block of 3 hours, and that's not 3 hours sleep. Is it? We shouldn't be running on that. We can't run on that.
but we
It's
do.
really hard.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
then we do, and then we still show up, and we run our
totally.
businesses, and we make things happen, and it doesn't matter, because like you said, you just got to talk about it and know that it's not just you. And I love that you're creating this community of, like, through YouTube and talking about on your Instagram and all those things,
Yeah.
and you're actually highlighting, hey, it is more than just it is more than, oh, you have a beautiful baby. And I think a lot of people don't realize, they think the pregnancy part's hard. It's when the baby comes out that the real work starts.
Do you know, I had the most beautiful pregnancy. It was
Me too.
bliss for me. And in fact, I actually felt guilty a lot of times. And again, that's something that a lot of women don't talk about, right? Because so
Same.
many women that I know, you did too, right? Isn't it funny? It's like a lot of my friends had awful pregnancies, like, morning sickness, having to have like so many scans, and like being poked and prodded constantly, and just like really, really awful, awful pregnancies. I loved it. I felt beautiful. I felt the most gorgeous and sexy I've ever felt in my life. And I just felt great. I didn't have any morning sickness. I went up until
Same.
almost 42 weeks. So I was like, I was ready to keep carrying him until 45 weeks, like, if it had been normal to do so. um, but yeah, it's so funny. But then I held back a little bit. I held back around some of my friends that had dreadful pregnancies, because I didn't feel like it was validated for me to kind of gush about how I was feeling. But I think that's wrong too. I actually kind of gave myself a bit of a slap on the wrist and said, like, no, you do need to talk about that, because you're entitled to be happy about it. Like, just because somebody else has had a bad experience doesn't mean that you have to dampen your own good experience. And I think that's something that we need to normalize too, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like all aspects of that too, and like all aspects of becoming a mum. And I was the same as you. I had a beautiful pregnancy. I worked up till 3 days before my son was due. I was the fittest I'd ever been, because I was walking every day. I was really strict
Yeah.
on what I was eating, because I'm like, you only get one chance to bake this baby, right? Like, I'm going to be
Yeah.
really, really, really conscious of it. And, and then when he came and everything, then it was the breastfeeding journey. And I was just really fortunate, because my background is speech language pathology, and I had a colleague who was very well trained in breastfeeding. So I could say to her, I actually said to her, I need help, because the
Yeah.
community nurses and things weren't showing up. They weren't doing what I needed them to do. And they were actually making me feel worse for being this mum
Yeah.
who wanted to breastfeed. And yeah, and that's the thing, because I had no one else really to talk to. Like, I was the first one in my family to have a child. My friends, some of them breastfed, some of them didn't. But I also had a shoulder injury, which made it harder to feed.
Mm.
So I had to learn a different position. And that's all it was. I just had to use shields, which isn't a bad thing. Anyone listening, it's not a bad thing using nipple
I
shields.
used
It's
them.
not
I
what they
used them
say
for
it
the
is.
first few
Thank
months.
you.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And then, I had to get a stool to put my foot on, and I used the football position, which you hold them like you're holding a football. And
Yep.
that's all. Someone had to just teach me that, right? And
Yep.
and I ended up breastfeeding him till he was 4.5, right? So this
That's
is
so
like
awesome. I
being
love that.
told, yeah, but being told you can't do this, you have to put him on formula. Da, da, da. I'm like, nah, I will get up and pump. And I did. I got up and I pumped until I figured
Yep.
out how to get him on properly. And then, I remember the moment where he kind of got into that self feed mode. And I was
Yeah.
walking through the shops and had one of the carriers on, like the kangaroo kind of ones. And he just pulled my boob out in the middle of the shops and started feeding while we were walking. And I was like, okay, this is full journey.
I love that. I love that. I mean, I haven't quite
just
got to that bit yet, but I'm sure he will at some point.
just needed some takeaway, mum.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, it is. You know what? I
Yeah.
mean, breastfeeding is such a big journey, and I think obviously we spoke a little bit about it in the text messaging too. But I mean, I'm also the first in my family. I think in like 3 or 4 generations to actually breastfeed, like for a longer
Mm,
time than a couple of weeks. Um, and more recently, my cousin in the UK, so she had a son, and so he turned 1 last year. So she just had him when I went across to the UK last year with H and stuff. And I said to her, I said, "Oh, how come you stopped breastfeeding?" And she said, "Oh, I just didn't have any support. It was really hurting me, and I just didn't have the support. I didn't know who to talk to." And I was like, in this, we should be yelling from the rooftops, like how to help and support women, like getting to those right positions, because every journey is so different as well. And I think that's what it's like, oh yeah, you latch them on. If they don't, you give them formula. What? How can that be my two options? Like, I either try and do that or I have to give them formula. That's not an option in my book. And it shouldn't be the
yeah.
option for anybody else either. There should be more support, more help. I mean, I was so fortunate. I'd actually hired a private midwife who continued seeing me well after the birth of Harrison. And still now I catch up with, they have a mums and bubs group once a month, which is lovely. But like, she could advise me. She told me different positions, and actually like just made it normal, like that it's okay to try a few different spots. If this doesn't work, try something else. I can come out and help you. I can do, like, so I had that like beautiful support, and I'm so grateful for that. Because yeah, so
Mm,
many women just don't have the support. And like you said, I think the community nurses or whatever, maybe they're not trained that way. I
yeah.
don't know if
Yeah.
everyone can get in to see a proper lactation consultant. I've never seen one, so
Consultant.
I'm not sure how readily available they are. I don't know. But like, yeah, I just think we need to normalize that each journey is different. And like you, I used shields for a while, and it got to like 4 months and just came off. He didn't like them anymore and just went on my
Exactly.
nipple. Just
Yeah.
just
For
like
me,
that.
it was, for me, it just fell off and he just
Yep.
reattached himself. So I fully understand. But the most beautiful thing, I feel to share this example with you, Sherry, was I was actually breastfeeding in a cafe and I didn't care. I was just like,
Yep.
no, this is how I'm feeding my child. If you have a problem with it, I don't care. But this
Yep.
beautiful person came up to me and gave me this card and it said, "Thank you for breastfeeding in public." And I was like, oh, this is
Aw,
beautiful. And then it said, pass this
that's
card on to
lovely.
someone else, and I never actually found anyone else that I saw doing it because a lot of people would hide in the car,
A lot of people
all these things.
don't.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, it's having the courage too to be like, okay, no, this is how I'm doing this, and it's not like you just whip it out. Like people just think you do. We have
Although I
clothes
do.
to help us. Oh, you do. I love it. I love it. So you do. But yeah, and
I don't
exactly. But
cover
it's just
myself
like,
up, nothing.
I love it. I love it. I used to wear the tops that was easy to just kind of flop it over the top, or have the
Yeah.
maternity kind of holes and that sort of thing. I love that. I love that, Sherry. See? So it's just exactly. It's just whatever
But
journey is you're meant to be on. Yeah.
absolutely. I actually had a very similar experience to you in a cafe, actually. A lady, it wasn't a card, but a lady came up to me. It was an older lady. I think she would have been in her 70s or something. And she said, it's really nice to see a mum breastfeeding out in public. And I just thought, isn't that lovely that an older generation, because that would have just been the norm. Like,
Mm.
going back years gone by, that would have just been the norm because there wasn't formula and, breastfeeding was it. Maybe if there was a real issue, they might have had a different sort of milk or, a wet nurse or something. Like, I just think that's how it's always been, and we've in the middle somewhere over the last few decades, it's kind of like we've just like lost all of motherhood. Like, it's kind of like been stamped on and pushed down in the ground, and people need to normalize like breastfeeding is it's the most normal thing. I just get it out,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Even it's really interesting about like baby food, right? So because my history as a speech language pathologist, I did training on how to work with children, especially fussy eaters, to try and get them to eat more. And then we
yeah.
were unpacking the history of eating. And baby
Mm.
food was actually created because doctors were telling women that they had to feed for only certain times of the day, so the babies were getting hungry. So then they said to supplement with baby food because the babies weren't ready yet, their digestive tract wasn't ready. Then they actually gave them this mush and everything like that. Whereas,
Interesting.
this is so controversial, but there's the two types of feeding, right? There's table led weaning, and then there's the ones where you use the baby food. I personally did table led weaning, and my child ate everything. Like he only ever, I remember he only choked once, but it was purely the watermelon juice went down the wrong hole because he bit in and it went down. And I was like, you know what? That would have happened anyway. And,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have mattered what we were doing,
Yeah.
and I was just like, okay, whack, whack, and move on. And the thing is, a lot of people freak out because they don't realize that babies have a really good gag reflex. And the reason they have
Yeah.
that is to make sure that they don't choke. And if you can hear them coughing and making noise, it means they can still breathe. So it's just merely that
Correct.
recovering from that. But
Yeah.
it's actually funny because if you don't, with the table led weaning, what it does is it helps develop the palate as well. So, my son would be there chewing on like a celery stick or a carrot stick, and it's actually developing his sensory things in his mouth, whereas baby food doesn't allow that to happen. So it's really interesting how that just came about and how it's like the norm now that, you go in, there's jars and jars of this baby food, and then you actually look that it's like boiled to nothing and if you're going to do that, you're better off making your own. Like, I'm assuming you
Absolutely.
make your own for Harrison, because they boil it and have to sterilize it to actually put it on the shelf to start with. So that has no nutrients left. So it's really
It's just
interesting when you
crazy.
unpack all of that. Yeah, exactly.
I've I've
Exactly.
never bought any baby food, and I don't intend to buy any baby food. Everything I make here, but a bit like you, doing the table led weaning, and I waited until Harrison had some teeth before I even gave him really any food. Apart from he had carrot and celery just to basically chew
Yep,
on, really, and it's more for his gums and for flavor, right? And now he
exactly.
doesn't have a lot. He has essentially one meal a day, but it's really more for flavors. He consumes a bit of it, but like this morning I cooked up steak and pumpkin. So he had literally was chewing on steak, and then so he chews on that for a bit. Once it starts breaking off, I then just break it into smaller bits, and then he can consume a bit. I gave him some pumpkin, which I just like forked up, like I didn't blend it or anything, and I just put some butter. And I also did the most controversial thing and put honey in it, because he's had honey since the day he was born. And they go, "Oh, you can't give your baby honey." I'm like, okay, I'm giving my baby honey because it's a great antibacterial and also pain relief. So
Medicinal.
um,
Yeah,
yeah, and like, so
yeah.
he's got like he's teething, so I'm like, yeah, I'll mash in a bit of that, and I gave him some pate that I made the other day. So like everything is really like rich in iron, good fats, everything. But he's not. Yes, he's consuming a bit of it, but it's mainly just for flavor. Like I put herbs and garlic and all sorts, and he eats what I eat. I had the rest
Exactly.
of the steak and the pumpkin, so you know,
Exactly.
like
And I
the
think that's
yeah.
like the really cool thing because you're already building that. you're already building that community and creating that relationship with him about, we're actually sharing a meal together, because a lot of time
Yeah.
that gets lost as well, and creating this standard of, okay, we're going to eat the same thing, which then helps you
Mm.
later on when we go to the fussy eating stage, which my
Absolutely,
child
right?
is
Yeah.
in that. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, well, here's what we're eating. You can make a decision about that now. Like, what do you want? What don't you want? And it's really interesting just unpacking that. Like you said, you felt to do the table led weaning and that sort of thing. But again, it's whatever you feel comfortable with as a mum,
Yeah.
and whatever your gut tells you aligns. Because I think the biggest message we could probably share, Sherrie, is that as a mum, you need to trust your mummy intuition, because you can
A
have
hundred
so
percent.
many people telling you different things, but in the end, it's your child, it's your life, and you're going to bring them up with what aligns with you and your values. And if someone tells you something and it doesn't align, roar. Be that lion and roar and go, no, that's not for me, and go do your own thing. Like,
A
thank you for
hundred
your advice,
percent.
but that doesn't align. Yeah, exactly.
100%. And I do think mums are kind of, they they become very vulnerable, right? Especially like when you're
Mm,
going like through childbirth and things like that. There's so many people, like mine ended up being emergency C-section, right? It was awful, the fact that Harrison was a code blue when he came out. Like, it was a dreadful thing, but I was very grateful to be in that setting at that same time, right? But
yes.
afterwards, like the amount of times that like the doctors, the nurses, the midwives, everyone's trying to push things on you. Now, if I wasn't strong in myself and listening to my own intuition about what my baby needed, because my baby needed to be on me, not to be manhandled by anybody else. Literally, once I got him on me after being stitched back up, he didn't leave my chest, I think, for about 7 hours. And actually, a midwife even came in and said, "Oh, you don't even have a nappy on him. Do you want a nappy?" I said, "No, it's fine. If he goes, he goes. It'll wash off. It's fine." Like, I literally, he needed me. He needed me. He needed to be close to me, and he needed any of the nutrients that I was going to give him. But I think there would have been so many women in that same position where they would have whipped the baby away. They would have done this, that, and the other. And I think it starts right from then. I think it even starts from being pregnant, like listening to your body, like you were
Mhm.
going walking and listening, like you were basically building your house, right? Building the house for your baby to home in until they were born, right? And
Exactly.
so listening to your body, listening to that mum gut, whatever it's telling you, I think we have to listen. But I think it's very hard sometimes when there's a lot of outside chatter, not to listen to it. And I think we kind of question our mum intuition. And I think that's one thing that we need to, yeah, absolutely drill that home, that intuition, that innate feeling, that innate decision that you've made before even really thinking about it is the right one, because that's your internal gut. And yeah, I think we have to trust that. We have to trust it.
100%. And as we start to finish our time together, Sherrie, I know we could talk about
Yeah.
mum things all day, but
Yeah.
if you could heal or change something in the world, what do you feel it would be?
Oof, that's a big loaded question. Heal
Mm,
or change something in the world. Actually, I think going on from what we were just saying, I think intuition, not just mum gut, but just intuition. I think we've been kind of brainwashed by lots of things. There's lots of, news and propaganda and all sorts of things going on around us all the time. If we could actually all just sit within ourselves, and just listen to what's going on inside rather than all the external chatter, I think the world would be the most wonderful place. Because I don't think there would end up being all of
agreed.
the
Agreed.
rubbish. Yeah, that's the one thing that I would heal, because I actually think it would make everything better.
Same.
Yeah.
I agree. If we all just followed our intuition, how different life would be, right? And
Totally.
and
Totally.
where can people find you, Sherrie? Where can they come and follow your journey and connect with you?
Yeah, so you can head over to see me on Instagram at the Creative Witchy Mama, or on my YouTube channel as well. I'm posting a lot of content on there, everything from my journey as a solo mum, to cooking, to making lots of homemade products. I'm also a digital artist, so I create a lot of fabrics, and make headscarves and eye pillows and all sorts of stuff. And you can catch me at Sherrie Morgan Design at those ones as well. So yeah, you can catch me everywhere. Just put in Sherrie Morgan and you'll find me everywhere. But yeah, the YouTube and Instagram Creative Witchy Mama, that's where my big stories are.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'll make sure to include all of that in the show notes so people can 100% come and track
Thank
down
you.
Sherrie Morgan. Well,
Yay!
thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
on the show and for sharing your journey so openly and vulnerably, because I know a lot of parents would be, or especially mums listening to this show, and it's not discounting the dad journey. The dad journey can be different for different reasons. Any parents tuning in, we understand. We
Yes.
understand.
We get it. But let's talk about
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Sherrie. And it has been an
Thank you.
absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much for having me on today. It's been awesome chatting. I really appreciate the platform and to be seen, and also to be asked some of the nitty gritty questions as well, because, yeah, I actually think we all need to be a bit more vulnerable and a bit more open and push away the mum guilt, because there's nothing to be
Yes.
guilty about. We're all going
100%.
through this together, and we need to support each other in that too. Yeah. So
100%.
thank you.
100%. Thank you, Sherrie. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.